and learned that jail is not for me in any way. I got my TV stolen, food stolen, picked on. I just want to get back to society and to see like my father has.
Aw, tune the world's smallest violin, everybody. This bully doesn't like it when he is bullied while in prison. You see, he's locked up for violating not one, but two protection orders. And, well, it just seems that he likes to hurt people, assault third degree as well, and just continuing to, well, I guess, pick on his significant other. Now, in all fairness, he also threatened a CO while locked up. So I guess he does pick on people his own size, even if done in a squeaky, high pitched, complaining voice. Anyways, let's watch this man baby's parole hearing. Let's go.
My name is Michael Wade Moore, 450-122.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Michael Moore, 450-122. He is serving a sentence of 10 years execution suspended after 3 years jail, followed by 5 years of probation for threatening force, violence, reckless disregard, and 2 counts of violation of protective order. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of April 5th, 2026 at 50%. There's no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has not completed any programming from his original recommended OAP programs. He remains on the wait list for a 5 to 7 day job in domestic violence. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender overall score falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. Mr. Moore, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin, sir.
Okay, yes. Dear honorable members of parole, I just want to take a few minutes to say I am truly sorry and take full responsibility for what I put through. She didn't deserve anything like that to happen to her, and I am so sorry that she had to experience that. Not her or anyone deserves to go through that. If I get that second chance, I promise that I will never contact or go near ever again, nor treat another woman the way I treated her ever again. It was wrong in so many ways, and alcohol was a big part of that. And I am now over a year sober, and I will continue to stay sober. If you guys give me a second chance, I plan to go back to work at Superior Pools and Construction and get back into my daughter's life and be trouble-free and stay on the right path from here on out. Being incarcerated changed me in a lot of ways for the better, as in I'm finally sober from alcohol and learned that jail is not for me in any way. I got my TV stolen, food stolen, picked on. I just want to get back to society and to see like my father has. And my support team is one of a kind. They are all successful and want me to do right in every way and will be there with me every step of the way. Thank you for taking the time to come and see me. And if I get a second chance, you will never see me in jail or court ever again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. That was great. We don't want to ever see you again. So jail should be a deterrent. Sounds like you've had some struggles, but you're making the best of things. That's good to hear. Right.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Ms. Chance is going to begin with questions this morning. When we're done with the questions, we'll deliberate and give you our decision.
Okay. So, Mr. Moore, I'm just going to tell you what's concerning me. You were drunk and under the influence of alcohol and threatened your girlfriend, right?
Yes.
And then you're incarcerated. You got 3 DRs. The one from March of this year, you threatened to shoot the officer in the face. So it appears to me that your behavior in the community is similar to your behavior during incarceration. And I understand you have not completed any programs. But if you look at your tickets, you should understand why. Okay, the one in July of this year was for fighting. The one in April was for interfering with safety and security.
Yes.
And then the third one was the threatening one. So for me, I don't find you suitable today because you haven't taken any programs to address your substance abuse, which has a drug score of 5, and your behavior through the disciplinary reports indicates similar behavior in the community.
Okay, I signed up for AA classes. I've been attending them. It's not on my OAP. I did that on my own. I have the paper right here.
Well, that's
That I've been attending.
voluntary. When did you
Yes.
start? And
I started that 9/11. I started that. I've been doing that for a few months just to help myself, you know, stay on the right path.
well, I'm
And I
glad
have
to
about,
hear.
thank you. I have about, I don't know, 25 papers since June. Trying to get into the programs. I've been on the list every time. I've been trying. I brought all of them. It's at least 27 papers, 27 request forms of trying to get into the programs.
We
They just keep
understand
saying I'm
that.
on the list.
We understand that, Mr. Moore. But
Okay.
based on the charges that you are incarcerated for and your disciplinary reports, we do need you to take, there is DV, New Thoughts,
Yes.
Voices, and you say you're attending AA meetings.
Yeah. So on my OAP for this prison when I came here, there's only domestic violence. I have my OAP. It's just domestic violence and a referral for what is it called? A referral for addiction services and to get a job.
Right. Addiction services is, you know, you get evaluated for one of the tier programs.
Yes,
Okay.
but it doesn't say nothing about new thoughts or voices.
Oh, well. I have your OAP that's dated June 17, 2025. It has
Yes, that was from the.
Voices. Let me finish. Anger
Sorry.
management, DV, New Thoughts, and they must have added addiction services when they removed anger management.
So that was for when I was at Carl Robinson. Once I came to Osborne, they only gave me 3. I have the paper and it says domestic violence, get a job, and referral for addiction services. That was all that's on there. I have the paper.
So no Voices and no New Thoughts.
No, yep, correct.
Well, in any case, as I've said before, that I can't find you suitable today because I do think you need to do that addiction services program. I'm happy to
Okay.
hear that you're attending AA meetings because that will
Yes.
help you along with the addiction services program.
Yes, they told me that I
Now-
have for addiction services. They told me I have to wait for my ticket to clear, and my ticket cleared today, so I'm free of everything. Today's the day my ticket cleared.
Okay, so you might be able to start taking programs. Well,
Yes,
I'm happy for
yes.
that. Okay. Well, you know, you and what was also concerning was because, you know, you have 2 protective orders
Yes.
and you violated both of them.
Yeah, so, and then if you want, I can explain those. So the first one, I went to court. It was a partial protective order. She moved back in with me. We went to a fairgrounds for a fair, and we had an argument there. It was nothing physical or nothing like that. And people overheard, and they said that's basically violated because you're not allowed to argue.
But once you have a protective order, you know you weren't supposed to move back in with her, right?
No, mine was partial. I have all the paperwork. It was partial. It wasn't a no contact. I called my lawyer and he said yes. And I called the courthouse and they said yes.
Okay,
The
Right.
violation was from arguing.
right. Well, you're gonna have to straighten that out because you violated them.
Yes, I have no intentions of contacting her, going near her. I have a family now. I have a new girlfriend. I have an apartment. I have a job. I have all the proof right here. I don't know if I emailed, well, not emailed, I sent in letters to Miss Smelly, Parole Officer Smelly.
Okay.
And
So how long
it was-
have you been dating your new girlfriend?
a year since I've been incarcerated. I knew her my whole
And
life.
is she aware of what your charges are?
Yes, I knew her my whole life.
Okay. All right, well, Mr. Moore, I wish you the best of luck. And I do hope that now that your ticket is clear, that you'll be able to go forward and participate in programs.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Chance. And Mr. Rodriguez?
Any question?
Okay, and I do not have any follow-up questions either, and Ms. Chance covered everything. All right, so Mr. Moore, we're all done with our questions. We're going to deliberate now. Give us a minute.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so Mr. Moore said he was drunk under the influence when he threatened with his girlfriend. The concern that I had is one of his 3 DRs, he also threatened to shoot the correction officer in the face. And for me, that's pretty serious. So I do think Mr. Moore's behavior in the community is being mimicked during his incarceration. So it is of concern. I don't find it suitable today because of his DRs, and he hasn't taken any of the programs on his OAP. So,
Any thoughts on a rehear from Mr. Moore after he does some of those programs? He's not done until 2027. So even if we brought him back in a year.
I wouldn't, he's halfway out to next
Okay.
year, so.
All right. And Mr. Rodriguez?
Same place, Madam Chair. The programming.
Okay. All right. And Ms. Chance, reasons?
So I had the nature inadequate institution program for institutional adjustment and inadequate evidence of offender change.
Okay. So in the matter of Michael Moore, 450122, I make a motion to deny discretionary parole for the following reasons. Nature and circumstance of the current offense, poor institutional adjustment, inadequate institutional program participation, and inadequate evidence of offender change. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, Mr. Moore, we were unable to vote you to parole today because we really are concerned, one, about your disciplinary reports.
Yes.
And 2, in order for you to really be successful in the community, you need to complete all those programs on your OAP. You are halfway
Yes.
house eligible around the same time that we would be thinking about bringing you back for a parole hearing. So that's probably the better way to go. Do your programs. So do your programs and then you see how you work out for a halfway house eligibility, community release.
Okay, so does that mean I come back up for parole?
No, you're not going to come back for parole because you're probably more eligible for community release.
Okay, what does that mean? Does that mean I go to my apartment or to a halfway house?
You'll have to talk to DOC about that. Okay?
Oh,
All
okay.
right. Best of luck. Do your programs though, so you have better opportunities for that.
Okay, when is my halfway house available?
I don't-
March?
Talk to your unit counselor about your halfway house eligibility date and the requirements for that, okay? You'll receive
Okay.
the board's finding in the mail. Good luck to you. This
thank you.
is for Michael Moore, 450122.
And the Manbaby was denied. Who else is pleasantly surprised? Now, to be frank, this parole board on this day's docket denied almost everyone. It was really surprising. I mean, there were no well, there was one Shomo. There was one Shomo that they denied, but it was I don't know, it was on a roll. It's I guess one of the better parole boards when you have Deborah Smith Palmieri, Sergio Rodriguez, and Joy Chance. It's like the tougher group. Maybe it's the crack brigade, no pun intended there, with the Connecticut Parole Board. His full term date is September 27, 2027. But it's crazy. It's unhinged that he has a girlfriend while locked up. As a matter of fact, I just, maybe you've seen it by now. We covered, he was the Connecticut Strangler because he was busted strangling two different women. We covered his parole hearing, and in his parole hearing, he said, well, I have another girlfriend. And they said, you do? I mean, you're in here for strangling women. And he said, yep, I have another girlfriend. And, I went on my Mandoo rage saying how, it's just what type of person would date someone like this. And he gets paroled. And guess what? 6 months later, he came back for a revocation hearing. And who could have predicted it? It was for DV. Yeah, what a shocker. So, it's not just the monster's fault, really. It's also the woman's fault for putting themselves in these situations. And I think that always needs to be addressed. It is a two-way street. Not all the time, but we're seeing it in these cases. In these specific cases, if you're female and you're dating someone in prison for violence, just don't like you're doing this, and it's not just yourself. They always have kids, so they're doing it to their kids too. But anyways, we're gonna watch another several bunch of parole hearings, and this one is much more intense. There's a really, really epic survivor mic drop. If you're moved by the survivor statements, please let her know in the comment section. I know I was. Let's jump in.
I didn't ask for any age and numbers.
Well, it was on her 13th birthday, and didn't you say to come into your room because you have a birthday present for her?
No, I didn't know that was her birthday.
And according to the victim, you did begin assault. So, but after, she tried to leave, but you would lock the door. She began crying, telling you to stop.
We are about to watch a parole hearing that will enrage you. This man, he is going to go so far as not only deny the age, but to blame the victim, the survivor. If you can imagine, how is that possible after he's taken so many programs that he would still do that? But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, he's a low risk to reoffend on the static 99. Such a low risk that he only needs to register for 10 years. Can you imagine that his full term date is 2030? He was only sentenced 2023, and the survivor, who's going to drop a mic on his face, has to show up already to protest his early release. This is one of the worst parole hearings that we have seen, and it only will enrage you. It's absolutely insane how this is orchestrated. Now, with that, let's jump in.
Louis Squire, 441020.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Louis Cuellar, number 441020. He's serving a sentence of 15 years, suspended after 8 years, followed by 10 years of probation for illegal contact with a victim under 16 and risk of injury to a child. He must also register as a offender for 10 years. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility for May 19, 2026. There is victim input in this case. There's an offender accountability plan. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed the short track offender program and alternative to violence programs. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the low range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for offense recidivism falls within the low moderate range. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe he should be granted parole. You may begin.
Oh, I got something right here. My name is Louis Squire, and I'm here doing the time for my bad behavior. I was 19 years old, young man, and I have no excuses for my conduct. I take full responsibility for my actions, and I have asked God to forgive me. And I also please ask to the victim will forgive me and allow me to have a second chance and to make amendments by doing well in the community. To the victim, I'm very sorry. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I have been working on myself to be a better person, learning a new vocational education, such as barbering, participating in programs that show me that I always have a choice to avoid violence. Working on my faith with God is in my importance to me, and I have been participating in outside Bible study courses. The lecturing program changed my way of thinking, and again, I'm very sorry with everything.
Okay, Mr. Cuellar, thank you for your statement. We have some questions for you. When we're done with our questions, the Office of Victim Services will provide input, and then we'll discuss your case and give you our decision here today.
All right.
Okay, we'll begin with my colleague, Ms. Keys.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your opening statement. I appreciate the apologies and saying that you have no excuse for your actions. Could you, without saying victims' names or anything, can you talk about what it is you're sorry for, what it is that you did?
Well, that day was kind of like bad for me because I was fired from the work that I was working for tips. And I get home and that person was there babysitting my little brother. And I went to my room and that person came into my room and we started talking, getting into contact, and I'm sorry, I feel ashamed of myself saying this. One time we start kissing and we have not intercourse, but it was for contact, and that was pretty much everything what happened that I remember.
Did you know how old she was?
No, at that moment.
Even though, but she would go to the house you were living at, she would go there after school while her mom's working, right?
I mean, my little brother's mom was working, but she was going to take care of my brother, but we never got like type of conversation. So I couldn't get into it, and I know it sounds dumb. I didn't ask for any age and numbers.
Well, it was on her 13th birthday, and didn't you say to come into your room because you have a birthday present for her?
No, I didn't know that was her birthday.
And according to the victim, I mean, you did begin assault. So, but she, after, she tried to leave, but you would lock the door. She began crying, telling you to stop. Do you think that what you did, so regardless of her age, I guess, let's assume she was an adult, which she was not. Do you think what you were doing was okay?
No. No, it wasn't.
Okay. So do you understand consent now?
Yeah.
Okay. And certainly she was a child anyway, so that was wrong. But her fighting and, I mean, she tried to escape. This was clearly not something she consented to. And again, she was a child anyway. But then the reason I'm bringing this up was that it seemed the reasons you had told the officer that you wouldn't have done it if you had known about the law. That you wouldn't have done it if you known about the law. And so I wanted to make sure that it's just wrong. You shouldn't do it, not just because of the law.
No, I understand that part, but I never locked the door. The door was just closed. She can just open and leave. That's why I told explain as well to the police officer that day.
And then another time when she unfortunately was back at the house and she went into the bathroom and you followed her into the bathroom.
No, on the police statement, I explained that I was already in the bathroom getting ready for work, and she's the one getting to the bathroom.
What did you learn in the short track offender program that you think will help you moving forward?
It showed me that sometimes it's just imposed to the moment, and it showed me to think better about my actions and show me more about the law and explain me better about how the short thing is about assistance. It's not just about assistance, about the people life, because it was more, I would say, momental about it. And sometimes you think you have to think better to make a better action about it, and not just go by the impulse, because that's not right. Don't even matter it's legal or illegal, consensual or not consensual. I think you always gotta think about it, and not just something that's just in the moment. It's
And I
very
want
much about it.
to give you credit for, I know English is not your first language, and I know this must not be as easy for you, but I appreciate you're doing a good job. If I ask any question or say something and you're not completely clear, please let me know. And so I appreciate it. So the class was in English. Did you have assistance from somebody that could help you understand everything?
I mean, the teacher, she was taking her time to explain me some things. So even if I understand it, not 100%, I still understand the point of the program.
Okay, thank you. You did not receive any disciplinary reports or tickets, which is really great. And you also completed alternatives to violence 1 and 2.
Yes.
Can you talk about how that may have helped you? What did you learn there?
That was an awesome program. That was a good one, because they give you like different words, and you got to think about it, about what's the opposite of those words, and you got to do the opposite of those things. Also teach you sometimes that one decision can make everything go wrong. So it show you that sometimes it's better not be on the place, even if it's possible. You just turn around and go away from the situation. That way to avoid any conflicts, any violence, and show me a lot. I open my eyes to that programs.
Okay.
And it was
Right.
awesome programs.
Good. Unfortunately, you're still on the wait list for voices, which I think would be really wonderful for you to be able to take. And I know that's out of your control. And also, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, please go
I
ahead.
have some requests. I'm asking for it.
Okay.
And the person who's running the program say, "That's not my OAP," which I'm like, I got the OAP, which says I have to, and
Okay.
and I have them over here. Hold on, I'm waiting for today. And this
All right.
is what responds me.
And you also have, and New Thoughts is on there as well, right? Is on your
Yeah.
OAP? Okay. And that
Yes.
you're all, okay. Yeah, both of those are really good programs, particularly voices, I think would be very helpful. It helps, it just helps to further understand victims' perspectives and victims of all kinds of crimes, but to really hopefully understand what victims go through, and I think everybody can understand other people's better perspectives better, would help us all through life. You're also in the barbering program, right, for hair?
Yeah. I just
When
need,
do you,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I just need like a couple more, I think 100 hours. That way I can finish my program. It's a $1,000 program. And according to my teacher, they're working on that way we can get the license from here, from the outside license. That way we can be certified and everything to do the job with the license on.
That was gonna be my next question was, if you can then, lead to a license. Okay, let's see, you want to release to a relative and who has 2 kids, but then you do get backups in case that would not be permitted. And you have a restaurant that you think you can return to because you have a relative that's the chef there.
My father, he's the chef in that restaurant.
Okay.
So I assume he can give me a job as at least a dishwasher. It's not my position I like to, but it's a good way to start over.
Right, something to get you started and build your resume. You know what a resume is? The word resume?
Yeah.
Yeah, something to help with that. All right, I'm gonna pass the mic to my colleagues. Thank you for answering my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Berry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Guerra, are you still, my colleague asked you about what transpired between you and the victim, and you said that there was no contact, but there was no. What does that mean?
It means like I mean we take our clothes off and even we were playing around with it. I mean she just step over me and try to ride me, or I think that's
Okay.
why I call it in English.
Okay.
And it was not penetration or anything.
Okay. Did she ever at any point say no?
Not that I remember.
Did she tell you to stop?
Yeah, but we already finished. So we just
Well,
just
if you
stop.
had already finished, why would she tell you to stop?
I mean, it's like it was not finished. It's just she was on top of me. Just stop, man. Okay, so I take my hands off and we start dressing.
If she was on top of you, why would she tell you to stop if she could have just gotten off?
Because I had my hands on her weights right here. So
She
she
could
just
have
stopped.
said, okay. Because I just am curious to know why then would this young lady say that you basically her if all of this was her doing?
It was not like that. I explained to the officer that day. It was not forced anything. I said the door was always open. I mean, it was closed, but it was not keyed or anything. She just can leave any moment. And it's not anything forced. It was not violence, no anything.
It wasn't forced. If someone says stop, or did she shake her head? Did she push you away? Any of that stuff? Did she try to stop you from pulling down her panties? Anything?
She did herself.
She pulled, so, okay. Because you told the officer that she came to you, and as Ms. Keys was saying, the police report indicates that you invited her into your room, that you pushed her down onto the bed, that you took off her clothes. None of that stuff happened.
No. I explained it to the officer that day. I assume he wrote it, maybe not. So I explained it all that.
So why would the victim say that you did this to her? Instead of her saying that this was, she wanted to do this.
I don't know, because that's her choice. And when she came back and say it to the officer, I admit it, because at that moment when it happened, I didn't know that anything can happen. But maybe later on, I understand how everything works, and she come back.
What do you mean? What do you mean? You understand how everything works? I don't understand. What are you trying?
like I said to her, Miss says, I explained it to the law, and I understand.
So
And
if you don't think it's against the law to somebody?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like I didn't hurt nobody. That's what I'm trying to say. But I understand I made a mistake by doing the
This
sexual
wasn't a
contact.
mistake, sir. You touched her. You performed sexual acts on this young girl, and she didn't want any of this. Do you understand that? That if she didn't want you to do it, you're saying that she wanted it, and I'm telling you that she didn't.
Yeah.
And that's where the crime lies. Because even in the evaluation, it said that you had you struggled to illustrate how you contributed to this crime. Like you really think that it's just about her age, and it's more than that. It's you know, you said you were in the bathroom and she came in, and so she asked you to touch her breast.
No, I mean that's not how it happens, bro.
How did it happen?
It was in there. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but it was not like forced or anything. I didn't force nobody.
My question to you, Mr. Corella, you were in the bathroom. She walks in. She asked you, grab my breast. Did she ask you to do that?
Not really.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about how you think your actions has impacted this victim. What do you think how do you think this has affected her?
Like in a bad way, thinking about it. Maybe get some bad memories. And maybe some bad thoughts, bad moments of the life.
You know, Mr. Corella, it sounds like you really, and I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, it sounds as if you really have a lot more work to do. I don't think that you really appreciate the gravity of what has transpired. You know, you listed your aunt as a person that you wanted to go and live with, and you need to understand that now that you are convicted offender, you will be prohibited from being around children for at least until you're done serving this sentence. And as long as you're on the offender registry, because your crime included a child. Do you understand that? Everything will be different than the way that you once knew it. How do you think you'll handle that? That means you can't really go to the playground. You can't go to the mall like you once went, you know. All those freedoms you have to check in and make sure it's okay.
Yeah, I understand that part because it's complicated.
Yeah, it is. It is. And while you are on probation, you'll be required to take additional programs. Do you think that you need more offender treatment so that you can fully understand what the
Yes, I would say yes because even I understand a little bit. The knowledge is always better to know more, and if you know more, you understand better what's the situation behind it.
Right, right. I agree. We do need for a little more treatment. So I appreciate your speaking with me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Cuellar, do you understand that a 13-year-old child cannot consent?
I didn't know at that moment, but I understand it on the program that explained me all
Okay.
about it. Even at 16, even at 17, they explain me all of that.
They cannot consent. So it's as if you're speaking to a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. Do you understand? They cannot tell you that it's okay. Okay. What was your relationship? Is there any relationship at all between the victim and your family, any of your family members?
I mean, for my family, I believe that she is my stepmother's niece.
Right. Okay. So how has this affected the family?
Well, it's been a complicated relationship because my stepmom and her niece, they don't talk anymore about it. And my stepmom, because she's agree with it, but at the same time, she understand that some cultures are different. She cut relationship. I mean, the other side, her family cut relationship with her, so it's been split up between them.
Right.
And because in my family side as well, my dad is still supporting me even
Yeah.
now.
So have you been honest with them about what you
Yes.
did?
Yes. They
Do you
everybody
think you're still in a little bit of denial about what you did? Because
no,
it seems like you're embarrassed to talk about some of the details.
I do because it's a shame for me because in my life I was never expecting to be convicted of a crime like this. Even I try to stay away from any trouble, drugs, bad friends, or anything like that. My mind never was thinking about this situation before.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for speaking with me. At this time, we're going to ask the Office of Victim Services to provide input for us. Ms. DeJesus, thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, board members. I do have the victim via speakerphone. This is your opportunity to express to the board your wishes and your concerns. I am to remind you that you are to address the panel members only, and you may begin.
Good morning. I'd like to start by addressing the court and saying thank you for being here. I never thought I'll be in this position again. At first, I thought I wasn't going to be able to be here at all, not because I didn't have time or because I didn't want to, but because I will not be here talking as a 23-year-old adult. I am here as my 13-year-old self, a child who is still trying to put together the pieces of her mind, of my soul, and the pieces of my life after a monster me when I was a child. I never forgot and I never will, even if that's what I desire the most. But the memories of what you did to me will never go away. It's something that will be with me for the rest of my life. That's what I told the inmate and the court the last time I was here. But no one in my head knew that the moment just kept happening over and over again. And I like to say that has stopped, but the reality is that it has not. I did not stop having nightmares at night though. Now I have them even when I'm not asleep. I go to school. I like studying. I like reading. I like learning. I like college. But one thing I don't seem to like is college boys. Because my mind is always betraying me. My mind is always filled with his face. I know the image didn't take away my ability to love, but it most definitely feels that way. This makes me sad because Hal is still taking things from me. It's not fair, and it doesn't feel fair. I was so angry when I first learned years ago that the email would eventually be released the same month and year that I graduate. His shadow seemed to be following me everywhere. But with the help of people, professional people, I learned to accept it because I was not going to let him tint this moment for me. I was not going to let him keep pulling me apart. I'm concentrating on my finals. I'm studying very hard. I'm excited because I'm about to fulfill my biggest dream, graduated. And then I received this notification, the email that stated that the email applied for a parole hearing. I was in a bit of a shock at first. I just couldn't believe what I was reading. I lived with what the monster did to me for 5 years before I had the courage to open up. And almost 4 years later, I'm still living in terror. So to sit here and read that this man doesn't want to even fulfill his punishment for the horrendous crime he committed, it crushes my soul. I want the court to consider this. Why does it feel like I'm the only one being punished for this crime? I learned to view the email release as something positive. I let the feeling of anger go because, as I said before, I was not going to let him tint this moment for me. I learned to view the situation as someone that is in control. So I asked the court, please do not tint this moment for me. Make him pay for the fullest extent for what he did to me. Because what he did to me is not right. And it's not right no wanting to pay for the consequences of your actions. No victim should ever feel like the shadow of their perpetrator is coming back to haunt them. I don't care if the inmate has been in good behavior. I don't care if the inmate has found God. I don't care if the inmate is going crazy in the four walls. I don't care if the inmate has completed any programs. Because you tell me he had 5 years after committing to think about his actions, to confess, to do all the things I'm sure he did, say he did, to change into a better person, and that he's ready to go back into society because he's better now. I asked the court to please not grant parole. Do not put him in charge again because that's what it feels like to me. And even now, I don't see any remorse on those eyes. And I don't hear any remorse in those words. I could sit here and talk for hours about all the damage you did to me and my family. Because you did not only break me, as you said, you broke the bond I had with my aunt, the woman that helped raise me, and that it crushed my soul when she didn't believe me because she is on the inmate side. But this day is for justice. Justice for me and for all the girls that had to pass through this. That's another thing I said to the inmate the last time I saw him. And now I tell the court, this is about justice. And justice for me and all the girls that have been here before me. So help me protect them. Please do not make us feel like justice isn't being served for what we suffer, for what those monsters do to us. Do not make me feel like powerless again, please. And that's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, board members.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Cuellar, give us some time to discuss your case and we'll come back to you with our decision shortly. Ms. Keys?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to it's hard to follow that statement. That was heartbreaking, and I'm very grateful that I'm sure. Well, I don't want to. Sure, she doesn't want to be doing this right now, but I'm very grateful that she took the time to allow us to hear from her, and I also appreciate the conversation that we've had. I want to give Mr. Serios, I want to recognize he has not had DRs, which is good. He has taken the short track sex offender program, which is good. I think I'm hoping he's starting to come to more terms with what he has done. He's not there yet. I really want him to take, voices, which is on his OAP as far as I saw, new thoughts, but particularly voices. He's not there yet, and hearing from the victim, I definitely don't want her to feel powerless anymore. So I am not in favor at this time of granting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Berry?
I am not in favor of discretionary parole today either, Madam Chair. I understand that Mr. Cuellar has a minimal criminal history and he has taken some programs. However, I too would like him to do a little more work. He has so much time left with us, and with the victim's impact as well, I would support I would support the denial.
Okay. Do I hear rehear?
I would be willing to rehear him.
I would be willing as well. He has a lot of time left, and I'd be willing to rehear.
Okay. When do we want to do that? In a year?
I have at least 1 year.
Yeah, at least one.
Yeah, he has several there's still so much for him to do. So, and he needs to solidify a release plan that doesn't include children.
Well, that would be a halfway house.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't have him going to that home regardless, but
Right. I had a halfway house too. But
yeah.
And I would like to rehear as we're considering it, because the community-based sex offender treatment program would be beneficial, I think, for him. But I think at this time, I'd rather him continue with voices and new thoughts first if possible. But then, I think the rehear would be good.
All right. Well, let's do a year then. Okay. Okay. In the matter of Louis Cuellar, inmate number 441020, I'll move to deny parole at this time due to the injury and impact to the victim and the victim's family and inadequate evidence of offender change.
Inadequate institutional program participation.
I
But
mean,
I'm fine with either.
he's taken some programs, but
Yes, he's taking the most appropriate. So yeah,
Yeah.
inadequate evidence of offender change, yeah.
yeah. And we'll rehear the case in a year, November of 2026, with the recommendation that he complete his OAP programs and any other additional programs and avoid any disciplinary reports. You don't have any. Is there a second to the motion?
second,
All in favor?
I
Okay. Do you understand, sir? We're going to bring you back in a year. We want you to continue to take programs. So finish what's on your OAP and any other program you can get into. Stay out of trouble, and we'll see you back here, okay?
Okay.
Good luck to you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for your participation.
Thank you.
This concludes the hearing for Louis Cuellar.
Someone with a PhD is going to have to educate me as to why in the universe he will be coming back in 1 year. His full term date is 2030. He has probation afterwards. Why even see him at all? It makes no sense. But okay, if you're drinking the Kool-Aid and you say, well, probation is good, but we rather him have, parole supervisor. Yeah, the special, we'll give him some parole for before he gets out because probation's not enough. Well, then you can say, okay, well, then have him come back in 2029. Some of you say, Mandoo, what's the big deal? Who cares if he comes back in a year? And it's so simple. It's so simple. Do you know the anxiety for the survivor who dropped a mic on his face? And she so elegantly said, just please let me graduate. Why is it that the idea that the clock starts now, the moment that this parole hearing ended, which happened the day before Thanksgiving, now we're going to have to see him back in a year. At what point does she start to lose sleep? Does she have anxiety? If I want to put this into perspective, have you ever moved in your life? Have you ever moved apartments or homes? At what point does does the move begin to stress you out? Is it 3 months before, 6 months before, 9 months before? It's stressful. You start to think about it. You start to think of all the things you need to do, all the costs. You start to lose sleep. Well, this is probably many times X a move. This is a different level of anxiety and stress, and they put that stress on her today. Why? Why would they not just say, wait until 2029? It's insane. Also, this parole hearing, it was just run so frustratingly by the new parole board member Keys. If you didn't know the age, you would think literally this was a thing about consent. And I think who was it? Was it Barry that came in and said, like, geez, you have to remind them, like, this has nothing to do with the, consent at any age. You can't consent. It's like a 2-year-old. But what was that? It was like we were listening to someone who had no idea what they were doing. You needed to. It was frustrating. I don't know if you wanted to scream. I wanted to scream. And when you first listened to this parole hearing, I knew better because of all the parole hearings that I've heard. I knew he was lying. I knew she was younger than he said she was. I knew the whole thing was a lie. But here he is, not only lying, but he's actually blaming the survivor, making it her fault. And it just pisses me off. And what's he do? He gets rewarded with another hearing. I mean, thankfully they didn't parole him. You never know. Sometimes they do. It really is a coin flip. But it's just madness. And then it's madness that he's low risk on a static 99. And then it's madness that he only needs to register for 10 years. I mean, he is what? I guess what's the age? He's, I guess, only like 31 years old, maybe even younger. And he's 29 years old, and he's like going to only have to register for 10 years. Also, what was a piss off? I'm pretty sure he said this, or at least he was leaning towards it, or he half said it, but it seemed that he was saying that, and that some parts of his family said it was culturally acceptable what he did. And that's why the family is divided, and that the aunt took his side, which is so insane. It's like it's just so insane. And even the way he talks about it, he's like, I had a bad day because I got fired. So even in that, it was like an admission of guilt. He had a bad day. He came home and he took his rage out on this little girl who just turned 13 that day. And then he tries to drag her through the mud by saying, she wanted it. She told me to do this. It was like she only said stop when it was over. And the survivor was so elegant, so profound, so majestic, I would even say, just in her delivery and the statement. And I hope she was through this hearing able to get her power back. I saw his face when they said there's victim impact statement. He like started to begin to panic, and I hope that this is a beginning step of getting that power back, of getting she was in control here, and she dropped the mic on his sorry face. And um, if she's watching this, we all know what you did is so brave and courageous all those years later to stand up, get him locked up, and protect potential future victims. Um, the whole thing's a gimmick. He was only sentenced 10/24/2023, up for parole the day before Thanksgiving, November 26, 2025. His full term date is 5/15/2030, and I'm giving him another chance. And as long as Connecticut doesn't stop us, we will be here. We will cover it. I have a feeling they're going to try to stop us this year. I have a feeling even as the new year comes around, something's going to change. I do. All the other states have been trying to stop us. So that's a little scary. I just had a survivor reach out to me yesterday as well from a Connecticut parole hearing, a big one. It had 500,000 views. The mother was doing horrible things to her. And she sent a beautiful letter. So we're going to have her on. I'm going to interview her. But it's so rewarding. It's so often. I've never had a survivor email me and say, take it down a hearing. It has never happened. But I've gotten many emails saying, thank you for publishing it. hearing my voice give me courage or strength, seeing the comments, your comments, meant so much to me. I get those emails. It's the most empowering email to receive.
My name is Joseph Soto, 443143.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Joseph Soto, inmate number 443143. He is serving a sentence of 10 years execution suspended after 3 years jail with 10 years probation for sexual assault second and risk of injury to a child. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of January 1st, 2026. There is victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed. It shows the offender has completed New Thoughts, Tier 2, and a short track sex offender program. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score on the SRT falls within the low range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low range. This is your opportunity to discuss to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
I have written something, if that's okay for me to read.
That would be very good. Thank you, Mr. Soto.
I appreciate it. It's the first time I've never done this before. So
Okay,
bear with me, I've been a little nervous.
yeah, read your statement and then we'll explain to you.
Yes,
Go
ma'am.
ahead.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to have this parole hearing. I understand that this is a privilege and not a right. So again, I greatly appreciate it. I'd like to start off by taking full responsibility for my actions. I'm extremely ashamed and stained my reputation of being a role model and a respected man. I made the decision to binge drink despite that, and I hold myself accountable. I want to genuinely apologize to the victim, her mother and her brother, for betraying your trust and putting you guys through this. I was wrong and my actions were not what you've known me for. I prayed for many times and many years that you can heal from this, and I am truly sorry. This being my first time incarcerated, I've taken the time to truly work on myself. Alcohol has always been an issue in my life and never led to anything positive, and it took this terrible decision for me to cut it out of my life. I've been sober for over 3.5 years, and that will continue upon my release. I've joined AA Fellowship to keep my mentality and my power strong in all facilities I've been in. I've been doing my incarceration. I've also been going to meetings in town once I'm released, live upon release. I'm also seeking a sponsor, and my wife does not condone alcohol. While incarcerated, I volunteered and completed for the Tier 2 program, which focused on substance abuse, how to deal with them, educated myself about its destruction, and keep my sobriety. I was extremely attentive and was active in discussions in every group meeting. I've also completed a short-track sex treatment program, for which I gained knowledge that controlling triggers and the true effects it had on my victim. I was open and honest about my case and was active in discussions and completed all assignments. This program was intense and touched on how actions affected my victim. I've completed also New Thoughts program as well, which have gave me good insight on how not to reoffend and victim impacts about individual cases. I acknowledge, completely understand, and extremely remorseful about the action and how terrible my decisions were. My sobriety is extremely important to me, and with hopeful parole release, I can get into AA and find more programs to help get my life on track. My plan is to go back to work, for which I have numerous employment opportunities. Prior to beginning my incarceration, I was a supervisor at World Class Distribution, for which I can get back to work there because they hire people with criminal records. I've been in management for the past 13 years of my life. I plan on attending church on Sundays with my family and continue providing for my household. Months feel like years in prison, and I'm needed at home with my wife and kids as much as I need them. My son is a freshman now. When I came in, he was in 7th grade. And through our phone calls and all that, he gets extremely emotional, as I do too. My son's mother passed away in 2020, and I took responsibility to take him in with me. I've raised him well, very polite, honorable student to this day. Sorry. During my incarceration, I've taken these programs extremely seriously and participated in every class. I've remained disciplinary free and have been respectful to staff. I will comply with every and any stipulation put in place. I just want to be given the opportunity. to prove what I'm stating, and I know I will not get in trouble on parole or henceforth. I want to get back to being a productive member of society. I also want to apologize to my wife, for which I met after this case, and for which I met after I was arrested. It's the first person I was extremely honest with about everything, and it felt good to liberate and start a relationship with someone that knew the truth about everything. For me, I appreciate my family and friends so much for being there by my side throughout this time. Lastly, thank you again to you, the parole board, for listening to me, and please know that given the opportunity to be granted, I will not reoffend or put my loved ones and self through this ever again. Remorse and shame is something I'll live with for the rest of my life. I cannot stress enough how terrible I felt about this. Once again, I am truly sorry for everything to Aaliyah, Catherine, and Richie. I hope one day I can be forgiven. I know that I will be able to relive and remain free without violating the law. I just need that one opportunity to get my life back on track. Once again, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Soto, thank you so much for that opening statement. You really were able to touch on all the important factors that we need to talk to you about today to determine your suitability. So we'll be asking you some questions. Then we have input from the Office of Victim Services. Then we will deliberate about your case and give you our decision. And just going forward, so you know, we do not refer to the victims by their names.
I'm sorry.
Generally, we use initials or just the victim. Okay?
Understood. I did not know that. I apologize.
Yep, I know you didn't know. We'll just get all the processes out there.
Understood.
All right, Ms. Chance will begin with questions this morning.
Hello, Mr. Soto. I really liked what you wrote in your opening statement because you have acknowledged the wrong that you did. You acknowledge your actions.
Absolutely.
I would just like to follow up on that piece of it and ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
How old were you when you committed this offense?
This 2022, so I was 37. Yeah.
Okay. And how old was the victim?
15.
Okay. So do you understand what consent means?
Yes, ma'am. I learned that through my programs that I've taken. So I do understand that.
What does it mean?
It means that basically on that age is somebody acknowledging and stating that they are, willing to do something, but at that age, there's no such thing as consent because she's too young.
Okay. So when you consume alcohol, do you always have those same feelings that you identified in your relapse prevention? And I'm referring to the short-term sex offender program.
No, I mean, as far as like drinking, I don't recall what was on
Yeah,
that.
so one of the things that you said is that feeling nervous and anxious, okay, and then you drink and then you feel carefree because of the alcohol.
It was
And
like that before.
That drinking alcohol, you do make poor decisions.
At the moment when I used to drink, because I stopped drinking well before my incarceration. So it was basically a month before I got arrested, I had quit drinking. So I stopped drinking December 29th of 2022. That was when I stopped drinking completely. But prior to that, I didn't see that I had an issue. I would just drink and I'll be like, oh, I'm just hanging out. I go to work, I do what I have to do. That dumb mentality of thinking that you can control that. But for me, I realized that it's not for me. I didn't like the person I was when I drank. Even after numerous times that people would tell me like, man, you know what, man, you shouldn't be drinking, And I took that like, oh man, I'm just hanging out, I have a job, I work hard, I have just all these basic excuses that I had. But honest truth, alcohol is not something that I want to deal with ever again. And now that I'm married with my wife as well, she does not condone alcohol at all. And I don't want to cause any friction or any scenarios as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, but Mr. Soto, if you have once, do you think that during all those periods when you were drinking, that you yourself had a problem with alcohol?
Yes, looking back at it, yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So here's the thing, you're always going to have that problem. You just have to know or learn how to control that.
Absolutely.
So you can't say you're not going to drink anymore because at the stage that you were,
yeah,
it was a serious problem.
Yes.
So I want to ask you another question. Why did you go on social media at the time?
Why did I go on social media? When I had social media, well, just to check on friends, put music, stuff like that. Take pictures.
So part of the issues that you have is that you said, or you identify external risk factors for you as going on social media and Snapchat and Instagram. And you said stressful situations at bars, which with large crowd, increases your anxiety. So how do you avoid those when you go back in the community?
Honest truth, I've outgrown all that kind of stuff. Like I'm more of a go to work, come home, spend time with my kids kind of person. So I'm not about that, about going out to bars and drinking and stuff. Like I stopped doing that many years ago. So, I mean, I think the last time I went to a bar, I was maybe 29, 30. So it's been a long time. And that's not entertainment for me. You know what I mean?
Well, I appreciate you saying now it's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But you have not said what happens if those thoughts or feelings come back to you, or you run into a friend, or on your way home from work and you go by a bar and you run into people that
Mm-hmm.
and because you've identified those as problems for you, what plans do you have in place to avoid them?
Well, that one of the main things that I said on my writing was that I'm planning to have a sponsor. So if I have those kind of triggers or whatever, I will call my sponsor and say, hey, I'm feeling this way. Because throughout my AA fellowships that I've been in every facility, I've spoken to them. They kind of gave me the gist of how that works. So, if I have an issue at any given time, I can call my sponsor and my sponsor is going to respond and say, hey, let's go here. Let's talk about this, so I'm good with communication. So I feel like I would reach out to my sponsor and just focus my sobriety on that. I mean, I don't need to fall into peer pressure or what anybody else is doing, especially throughout this ordeal. I'm not risking anything to come back here.
Yeah. And you've never thought of a sponsor before?
Well, not before, because I started really doing AA towards like maybe a month before I came in, and then I started doing it through here. So once I was incarcerated, I started getting a little bit more knowledge of how it works. So in the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm probably not going to need one. But then once I kept going to programs and speaking to all different people that have been through worse or less than me, I said, you know what, I am going to need a sponsor because just in case, as you said, if I have any of those triggers, I want to have an outlet, and that's going to be my outlet.
So at the facility there, you attend AA meetings.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you briefly mentioned in your opening comments what you learned in New Thoughts. And you said New Thoughts, you learned about how not to reoffend.
Yes.
So can you give an example of something specific in New Thoughts that made you know that you don't need to reoffend?
Well, and that situation is like sometimes in New Thoughts is similar to what the word says. You know, it's thoughts that you have and positive thoughts before you make them happen. So for me, that was one of those things that's like, you know, think about it, now think about the outcome. All right, it can lead to this, that. It's a whole roller coaster effect for me. So, you know, for example, if, you know, something as basic as, let's say, stealing, which I'm not as far as that's concerned. If I see something and I'm like, huh, that looks nice, you know, I should take it. No, maybe I shouldn't because it can lead to jail. I can save my reputation even furthermore in cases like that. So, and as far as that, like, that's what I learned more so about New Thoughts is like, really just think, sit back and think about the consequences.
Okay, so, you know, it's really about, when you get those impulsive thoughts, you know, you have to give it a few minutes and rethink it.
Mhm.
And then, you know, take the appropriate action.
Absolutely.
Take those thoughts somewhere else.
Mhm. Think about something more positive than something negative.
Okay. So I know you've had support and you want to obtain a sponsor.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you looked into who or when or how you would do that? Have you done that while you've been there?
Well, I've actually reached out to my wife to kind of look it up online and stuff like that to see where I can go. And there's a couple of churches around my area where I live that I can go in there and go start getting into the programs, which, like I told my wife, and I'm telling you guys, you know, honest, truthfully, once I do get released, that's where I plan on going. It's going to be one of the first places I go to is, hey, you know, I need a sponsor, one of your guys' days for programs, and I'm going to go from there. I have to keep my mind busy. I have to keep myself positive, and that and the job. I want to get back to work. Like, you know, we have a job app on our tablets that I look at every day with the hope, you know, that I can get out there and work.
Okay. You know, I really don't have any other questions to you because you really did a pretty good job in your opening comments
Thank you,
to
ma'am.
address specifically what you're taking responsibility for
Yes, ma'am.
and apologizing. And the concern for me was whether you understand what consent meant. And
Yes.
you were
I do.
able to do that, so I appreciate that. So
Thank
thank
you,
you
ma'am.
for answering my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Chance. So, Mr. Soto, I just want to follow up. During your interview with the parole officer, you know, they always the parole officers ask, do you foresee a high risk situation in the community when you return? And I have that you did not have a high risk identified. Can you think about that for me? Would alcohol be a high risk for you if you were to relapse? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That would, well, I feel like, you know, it's always a possibility, but it's your choice to pick up a bottle, pick up a beer, pick up something. So that, you know, I'm not a person that's a follower. So like, it could be 100 people doing whatever, and I'm not going to do that. If I feel like I shouldn't do that, especially in this situation again. Like, I don't want to be put in this situation again. And I know that just one thing can escalate and it can snowball. And I do not want it to get there.
Okay.
My family means so much to me.
We do not want to see you back here, and we want to see you do
absolutely.
well on supervision. You have 10
Yes,
years of probation to follow your sentence. You know,
I understand.
probation can be a great resource.
Oh,
if you allow
I've been reading up on it.
right?
I've
Yep.
been reading up on it. Yes, ma'am.
You know, so I do think that it's important to identify what are risky situations for you in the community.
Absolutely.
Alcohol is, I think, an obvious one, but I do think that there could be other things. You have 10 years to be on the sex offender registry. For some people, you know, that is also can create some difficulties, some adjustment just in life in general.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
And you have a protective order until 2099.
That's fine.
Yep.
That's not an issue for me at all.
Okay.
Not an issue for me at all.
All right. Great. That's all I have. Ms. Keys?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you are attributing a lot of this to alcohol use, and it sounds like you've done some self-insight and everything. This was a kind of an ongoing I mean, there were several kind of, I want to say grooming, instances of,
Yes.
text and car rides. And I mean, it was like a slow and, strategic. Were you drinking all day? Were you?
I would honestly come home from work, or if I had a day off, and I'll have about a pint and a half, and I thought, like I said, I thought I was a functioning, how I acknowledge it now to be a functioning alcoholic, but at the time, I didn't think it was but I did escalate to that. So I'm not disputing. I understand.
Thank you. And you also were smoking marijuana a few times every day. Do you think that contributed to anything?
I don't think it did. I mean, obviously it does trigger your mind a bit, but I feel like the combination of both was definitely but like I said, if alcohol is going to be something that we have on my mind. If the marijuana is an issue, I could always, I've been doing this whole time drug free at the same time too. So, I mean, I'm willing to do anything and anything, jump through hoops to be able to get back to society. Honest truth.
Yeah. And you were with the victim's mom for about 5 years. So you watched this little girl grow up from really little to this. I mean, have you considered how, she already was struggling with school and with things and was getting grounded. So she was more vulnerable maybe at the time because she was struggling and her mom was trying her best to help her and get her on track when this was occurring. Have you considered how it might be impacting her to have this father figure like driving her for sexual favor?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, because that's part of the stuff that I wrote down. I am remorseful for it because I should have been a better person, a better role model towards her. And the way I feel is just like, man, like my mind was just gone. You know what I mean? Because prior to that, there's never been no situations of that action. As far as that's concerned, I've always tried to, oh, hey, you want to play basketball? Go on the basketball team. Hey, I bought a hoop. I tried to be that, but at that point in time, man, alcohol just took advantage of me. And I'm not trying to say it as an excuse because I took the step to do the drinking, to do all that kind of stuff. So I am apologetic about it. I feel terrible. I am remorseful. This a lot of the time that I've been in here was not just, oh, poor me. It was like, man, like, I really disappointed that situation. And I disappointed the victim. I disappointed the parents, the mom, so it's not something that I'm just sitting back like, oh, okay. No, it's something that's in me every single day that I wish I can take back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was thinking about it. It's such a, she's vulnerable and, trying to, at a pivotal point in her life that, that was not what she needed at that time. But sounds like you seem to recognize that.
I do, man. I do agree with you. I should have been better. And I wish I can go back and change that. But it did happen, and I'm paying the price for it right now. And right now there's nothing else I can do but apologize and hopeful that one day she can really heal from this, and the mom as well, and the brother as well. That's why I apologize to the brother as well too. Because I had a responsibility when I let them down.
Appreciate you saying that. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Soto, we will now hear from the Office of Victim Services. You can listen. Please do not interrupt. All right, Ms. Vasquez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. Unfortunately, we do not have victim input for this case, but I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Soto. So we do not have victim input as we originally were expecting. All right, we'll deliberate now. Ms. Chance?
So I thought Mr. Soto's opening comments really covered a lot over the exact day. He was able to share, what he learned in Tier 2 in terms of its alcoholism, new thoughts, and the short-term sex offender program. And he was able to answer the questions that I asked appropriately, what consent meant. He was able to tell me that she could not because of her age. I appreciated all of that and his honesty. I do find Mr. suitable for discretionary parole today because I do hear some change in him. And he, did acknowledge he was able to identify, what his internal and external risk factors are for him. The risky situations, including his drinking. He does have support in the community, and his risk to recidivate is low. So I would be in favor of discretionary parole for Mr. Soto today.
Thank you. I agree with everything you've already put on the record. I will also note that Mr. Soto scores low in all the risk assessments for recidivism. I agree with you that he was really able to identify his risk factors, which is important. He'll continue with treatment in the community. I also appreciate that he has a plan to address his substance abuse on a voluntary basis in the community, and that support can go on for a lifetime. So I think that he recognizes the importance of living a sober lifestyle and the consequences of not when you make those poor decisions. Ms. Keys?
I agree.
Okay, yeah, I think we all see a vendor change. Conditions, Ms. Chance?
Okay, there's a few. So he will sponsor to his wife. I have no contact with victim A. No consumption of alcohol. Problem sexual behavior treatment. No contact with minors. Enhanced internet and device monitoring. Because he was on, Snapchat and
Yes, I understand.
social media and Instagram and those.
Okay. And internet device monitoring, right?
So I had 6, I don't know, well,
That's, I
his
had,
sponsor expired.
okay. Anything else?
She's living in the wife is living in the home, but with children, should we have anything with it? I know he owns the home. Should we have a halfway house just in case the PO is not comfortable yet, or because of the minors?
We can add a halfway house, but just
Just in
one.
case.
We'll add a halfway house if needed.
If needed, yeah. Hopefully it's not, but just in case there.
Right. There's some issues.
Yeah.
All right. So in the matter of Joseph Soto, 443143, I make a motion to grant discretionary parole on or after January 1st, 2026, with the following conditions: no alcohol consumption, halfway house placement if needed, community-based treatment for problem sexual behavior, no contact with minors without the parole officer's permission, and enhanced internet device monitoring. Also, no contact with the victim, AM. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, Mr. Soto, congratulations. You were granted parole. Good,
Thank
best
you.
of luck to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thank you.
You watch these hearings and you just say, how is this possible? We literally just watched a hearing of a chomo, someone who targeted his prey, a woman with little one, with a daughter, that he knew when he started dating this woman that he was doing it for one reason and one reason alone. He, throughout the years of this marriage, slowly begins to groom her, to manipulate her, to do everything that he can to put himself in the position to achieve his goal, which was her all the way from the very beginning, the moment he started dating her mother. And it's these parole board members that have no grasp of how these chomos operate. They're clueless. Instead, they say, it must have just been the alcohol. And Do you now understand what consent means? That was their biggest takeaway. Did you learn in their programs what consent means? I mean, it just blows up your mind. Like and I know it's not just me that feels this way. I know that as we're all listening to this, we're all thinking the same things. Consent? Consent? What? What are you talking about? She was 13 years old. He's been a father figure in her life for like 10 years at that point. Consent? What? And, one of the board members mentioned it for like a second. What's her name? Keys. She's the new one. And she says, well, there was some grooming. It shows in the record that there are some things that were strategic. Were you drinking every day? Like I don't even know what was she trying to do like a gotcha? Like, oh, so you were grooming and sending these text messages only because you were drinking all day? Because clearly if you were sober, you never would have done it. I mean, she literally that was her connotation. It wasn't even a gotcha. She was trying to offer an excuse. What? And when you see these parole hearings and you see just how clueless these parole interviewers are, these parole board members, and it just makes you, you just want to pull your hair out. It's like, how can you be so dumb? We live in 2025. I mean, Chris Hansen's sting operations are like over 20 years old by now. Have you not ever seen like all they need to do is forget their PhD programs and their training. These parole board members genuinely in their heart believe that alcohol was the reason that he preyed upon his 13-year-old daughter. They're nuts. And these are the people in charge. These are the people placed in charge to protect us. I mean, it's just as criminal as a static 99. He's a low risk to reoffend. He only needs to register for 10 years. As a matter of fact, I mean, he was only sentenced 8/22 of 2024. Arrested on February 23rd, 2023 for the crimes that he committed on June 28, 2022. He pled guilty to 2 counts of sexual against someone between the age of 13 and 15 and risk of injury to a child, was sentenced to 10 years in jail, but suspended after 3. They love doing that. Suspended crap. Only needs to register for 10 years. He was sentenced on 8/22/2024 and he gets paroled a year and 3 months later. It's mind-blowing. It really truly is. And there's no victim input, which only makes you wonder what kind of, mother wouldn't even come to. It's just the entire thing is so sick. It's sick. It's sick. And he's already remarried. Can you imagine? Can you even imagine? He's 40 years old, this man. 40 years old. He does this to his daughter. And while he's locked up for this horrific crime, he gets remarried. Who are these women? Who are you? They need to be held accountable. Like, there's enough of this. There's just there must be some type of, there needs to be a culture shift. If you marry a man who is locked up in prison for doing this, you like, we can't, like, I get it. We live in but how? Why? And how often are these men are married? They get married. They seem to have no problem. And I think what's important. See, we see here, we're at these parole hearings and we see right through them. We've heard the excuse 1,000 times. Oh, the alcohol, the marijuana, the parole board lets them get away with the excuses. They actually buy into it. They drink it up like the Connecticut water. They just say, "Oh yeah, of course it was the booze. Of course you're not a choma. Of course you didn't plan this and strategically date a woman with a child so that you can fulfill your fantasy." And then and we see that all. We see him for the roach that he is. But they clearly have to have some type of manipulative charm because they're able to get married. They're able to groom their victims, right? Whether it be a child or it be another fully grown adult who undoubtedly has little ones as well. Parole board doesn't ask any of those questions. They don't care. No, let's just release him out into the public where he will have access to more prey. The system is broken. It's just insane. It really is maddening. It's maddening. And to us sheeple who know it's maddening, who see it happening day in and day out, for those who are put in charge to allow it to happen, and you just left speechless. I don't know what to do. Like normally I'd be yelling, but I'm out of yelling right now. It just dumbfounded. It is messed up. It is. How many more victims is he going to create? And again, it's like the idea that the parole board, they actually don't think, no, no, no. This is a chomo. Like he likes little ones. No, no. To them, it was just the booze. I mean, because we all know when we drink too much and smoke pot, we go into group. Like they don't even understand the amount. This was the amount of time it would take to get her to feel it was okay to and then keep the secret. The amount of effort that it's a living obsession. It's something he fully was committed to, and who knows how long ago it started and how long it lasted till he was caught. We don't have any details. There's nothing on this case. But it's like you have to be as dumb as the parole board members to think that this was just like a one-off thing. Whoop, it just happened. Whoop. Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess, just because we've seen this so many times, it was probably going on for years. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, now that he's taken a couple of programs, he'll be okay. It's madness.
Kevin Aponte, 396-657.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Kevin Ponte, inmate number 396-657. He is serving a sentence of 7 years execution suspended after 30 months jail with 3 years probation for larceny second, illegal operation of a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol/drugs, possession with intent to sell, illegal operation of a motor vehicle with an ignition device. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of May 14th, 2025. There's no victims in this case, no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender, and the offender has not completed any programs. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score on the SRT falls within the high range of risk for recidivism. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Thanks. I couldn't hear the last part you said, and I apologize.
Tell us why you think you're suitable for parole today.
I believe I'm suitable for parole because I'm not the same individual. I walked into jail. I understand the crimes I've committed. How's it affected me, my loved ones, the community, and I believe that I've changed for the most part. Every day is a constant battle, but at the same time, I have the will and I have the ability to continue to learn, to understand where I've made my wrongs and how can I right my wrongs so I won't commit them again.
Okay, Mr. Aponte, thank you for that. So we're going to ask you some questions and then we'll make a decision about parole at the end of the questions. So you're here today because the last board in May 2025 wanted you to go back and do some more programs, and have good conduct.
Well, I'll have to jump back in because they did see his parole hearing before. And now I'm looking in the spreadsheet, and Sir Richard does have it marked down. By the way, for y'all who don't know, Sir Richard is back out of retirement and in the spreadsheet, and that is a good thing for the Mandoo community. So before we watch his present day hearing, we are going to do my favorite thing and take a flashback to the past and see that original hearing. So with that, let's jump in.
Evan Aponte, 396-657.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Kevin Aponte, inmate number 396-657. He is serving a sentence of 7 years execution suspended after 30 months jail with 3 years probation for larceny second, illegal operation of a motor vehicle under the influence, possession with intent to sell, and illegal operation of a motor vehicle without the ignition device. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of May 14th, 2025. There's no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has not completed any program. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score in the SRT falls within the high range of risk for recidivism. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Why do you think you deserve parole, sir?
I believe I do because these past 15 months I've been incarcerated. I've been thrown challenges that's dire to the point where I was supposed to crumble, and here I am flourishing, and not in a way that parole or the state of Connecticut might deem plausible, but to myself, you understand what I'm saying? I'm not the same person. I walked into this sentence. My willpower to do better, my drive, my support. I believe I got a lot of stuff installed to help me to be a great member of society and a productive and positive one as well.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that, Mr. Aponte. I'm happy to hear that you've had some time to really reflect on. Are you having a difficult time hearing us?
Yeah, I can't really hear you that well. It's not because of the thing is that I have hard hearing problems.
So do you want me to speak louder or slower?
If you can speak a little slower, please.
Okay. So we appreciate the fact that you've taken this time to reflect on your actions and why you're in prison now. And we're also happy to hear that you feel that you've matured and that you have in fact changed. Well, I'm going to be honest with you and say that your drug score is a 4. And it would appear that that is what fuels your criminal activity. Right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah. And I mean, that coupled with your poor decision making. So I really do feel that you need to participate at least in an addiction services program prior to my believing that you are suitable for discretionary parole. And I say that because I think that you are
you self-sabotage a little?
A lot.
Yeah, because the tickets that you're receiving are preventing you from doing better.
I have something to weigh in on the tickets that I'm catching. I got a whole bunch of medical stuff going on, so the facility I'm in wasn't giving me, how can I say, it wasn't giving me a lot of stuff that I'm supposed to be getting. So they was putting me in certain situations where I had to sign the ticket or I could get.
Right, you have to go to the box. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
I have to either sign this ticket, stay in the box for 3 days and try to get as much medical attention as possible, or staying here 10 days and risk me having health complications, which I didn't feel like, you know what I'm saying? So that's something that prevented me from doing programming. Also, my living conditions in there. I'm not even supposed to have a cellmate. They're forcing my health condition on other cellmates. So, which is forcing them to put hands in their own matters. And I'm only human, so I'm gonna defend myself. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, unfortunately, it's just the unfortunate series of events that I'm getting the excuse my French, the ass end of the stick of it. But it's not the actions of that I did, is what I'm gonna do after the fact and what I've learned from those actions. You understand? So with that being said, the programming can only show us a lot of skills. It's on us if we're gonna use those skills within ourselves. And I believe, like, I've learned a lot of skills about life in general that a program cannot teach us. You understand what I'm saying? Self-control, self-discipline. You understand what I'm saying? So I say that to say, in the programming sense, I do understand what you're saying, because I do have the level 4 medical. I was an addict, and that the first road to recovery is admitting that I had a nasty addiction. And yeah, I just wanted to weigh in on that.
No, I understand. Like, I mean, have any of us ever been in prison? No, but we do understand that prison life is very difficult to navigate. And so at this point, Mr. Aponte, you really have to decide whether you want your freedom or you want to stay where you are. Because again, we'll go back to the self-sabotaging, where, you know, you feel as if I have to do these things because this is the only way that I'm going to be heard or seen. But they negatively impact the person that you're saying that you are. Like, we know that you want to be a better person. We know that you don't want to be in there. And we also know that you're capable of making better decisions. But the only way for us to determine whether or not there's some evidence of change is through your behavior there in the facility, meaning no tickets, meaning program participation, and showing us that those are ways that we gauge whether or not you've changed. I mean, I hear the verbal, like, I know that you want to do it, and I'm hoping that you are capable of doing it. So if we decide today to deny your parole and ask the officer to put in a word for you to get into programs, would you be willing to do that?
I'll be willing to do it regardless, but unfortunately, the facility that we are, it doesn't work like that. It goes by a list.
You know, well, once you come before the parole board, once you come before us, we have a little bit of say. So we can say, we can, as long as you stay out of trouble. Again,
no, yeah, I've been trying to do that to the best of my ability. You understand?
I do. You have to stay out of trouble, though, Mr. Aponte.
But I can't force if another individual puts his hands on me. I can't force if another individual's telling an officer, yeah, this is his. So unfortunately, like I said, I have to go through due process, which is the box. Right. I can't sit there. And you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's just an unfortunate series of not unfortunate series of events. It's just unfortunately that I have to go through this. You know what I'm saying? Which is, it is what it is. You understand what I'm saying? But
yeah,
like you said,
you just try. All we're asking you to do is try.
Yeah, most
just
definitely.
try. Okay. So I'm thinking that, you know, whatever level tier that Department of Corrections decides to put you in, we want to see you do that. You also have voices on your OAP. Maybe you could participate in that as well.
They don't offer that program no
Here?
more.
Okay.
They don't offer that. They haven't offered that program in like 8 months.
Are you working in the facility? Are you on the list for a job?
Due to my ticket, having an open ticket, you can't do nothing in the facility. You can't do schooling. You can't do programming. You can't do nothing in this facility due to that. I wrote Director Lanford to see if he could waive it, trying to explain to him my case. He wasn't.
Saw that. Yeah,
he wasn't trying to.
we saw it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to budge on me. So I gotta wait whatever amount of days I got left to do the program after the fact.
Yeah. So I think that we're going to try to get you into some programs, Mr. Aponte, to help with your decision making, and hopefully we'll give you another opportunity to come back before the board. You're not eligible for parole until, well, it's May now. I keep forgetting. So, but your end of sentence looks like it's in June, and to give you enough time to do the programs.
Wait, you said my end of sentence is June
of next year.
It's not August.
Well, if you stay out of trouble, it'll be June.
Okay. I apologize.
Yeah.
So yeah.
If you stay out of trouble, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know how you all feel about a rehear for this young man. But maybe, November? Well, his last ticket was in March, which I know this is going to be a big ask, but maybe if he could stay out of trouble until December, that'll be 7 months. He can show the board, the next panel, that he is trying his very best.
I have another thing to weigh in as well. I also was trying to look to get granted parole because I'm not even getting the correct medical treatment in here. And you understand? I'm trying to go home so I'm supposed to have a major surgery coming up, and I can't even have it because I don't even get the proper care as it is in here. That's another thing I've been, you know what I'm saying? I don't even get the proper care in here for my medical. I've been writing, talking.
No, so Mr. Aponte, I understand what you're saying, sir, but the issue is that when you're out in the community and you're driving and you're not supposed to be driving, and you're selling drugs and you're stealing things, that's why you're in there right now. So you have to try to figure this out. Like, we don't want you to be neglected in terms of your health care. And we did get a letter from your doctor.
The past 15 months, that's what's been happening to me. I've been catching infections, all types of stuff. God forbid, within the next 7 months, I catch an infection to the point where my life is in position. You know what I'm saying?
I do. And my heart, you know, and I feel bad.
Like I have a whole file there about my disease. I probably did read it or didn't read it.
No, yeah, it's in your file. We got a letter from your doctor.
It's most definitely, I got a chronic disease. You understand what I'm saying? I've been this far trying to battle with it within itself. I don't even get, you don't even know the half of the stuff I don't even get in here. Like,
well, we're going to give you I understand what you're saying, but you have to do something on your part, Mr. Aponte. We're not saying that we're giving up on you. We're saying, let's give you another opportunity at a later time. We'll try to get.
Can we try to put something closer? Like, my health is more important than any of this. Like, I'm not trying to die incarcerated over programming or, you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
In jail 220 pounds. There's no reason why I'm 185, 87 pounds because I'm not getting the proper meal regimen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's little simple stuff like that. Like, I'm not even getting the proper living conditions.
Yeah.
I'm getting assaulted for having a medical problem. Like, that within itself should tell you something. You feel me?
I do. So I think. So we appreciate all that you've shared, Mr. Aponte. It's up to you at this point now to take advantage of this rehear. So we're going to say your tickets and programs. So we'll see you back in December of this year. And hopefully you will have made better choices. So with regard to Kevin Aponte, 396657, I move to deny discretionary parole today based on his poor institutional adjustment and inadequate program participation. We will rehear him in December of this year. And he should have successfully completed programs on his offender accountability plan, addiction services, voices. And we are going to ask Officer Menard to message the addiction services so that he can get into the programs as soon as possible and he can come back before us with no disciplinary infractions. There is second. All in favor? Aye. All right, Mr. Aponte, you'll receive all of this in writing, sir. We're going to do our best to do our part. You have to do yours too, okay?
Thank you. Have a good one.
Well, time moves quickly because it is December and we are going to see his second parole hearing. And by the way, before you feel bad for him, I'm not going to go over it in detail, but his arrest record that Sir Richard provided here, it is so long. This man has arrest after arrest after arrest, just year after year after year. I do not feel bad for him. He puts himself where he is, but he is given a golden ticket, so to speak. He has a chance to get out early. And I think, as Dr. Grande says, if there is one thing for certain, it's that he will have no new disciplinary reports, and it's that he will certainly have completed all of his programs.
So a couple of things have happened. One, you haven't done any programs since the last hearing, and you have a new disciplinary report. So tell me why things are different this time.
My age, the time I've spent in the cell, my actions, I feel like I've been learning to control my thoughts so I won't speak out of line, so I won't act out of line. It all starts with a thought process. I've missed a lot of stuff since I've been incarcerated these last 6 months, 7 months, since my last parole hearing, and I have a whole different set of, support that's gonna help me reintegrate back into community so I won't reoffend, so I could get the help that I need, so I won't, continue to use drugs and alcohol to try to find it as an outlet instead of facing everything that life has to throw at me.
Okay, but Mr. Aponte, why haven't you taken an addiction services program?
I just seen them again yesterday for another interview. They told me that I don't need nothing. I don't need an addiction because my score was a 3. And she told me that I'm not qualified for tier 4 or tier 2.
Well, that's not our understanding. I mean, I have you as a drug and alcohol score of 4, and typically anybody over a 2 is at least qualifies for tier 2. So I'm not really sure where the miscommunication is. And then when you talk about, you've changed how you're thinking, this disciplinary report that you had just this past July, which was shortly after your last hearing, it involves you not wanting to follow the rules.
I was told I was able to do something which the message wasn't passed on. So they were trying to give me a disciplinary hearing for something completely different. I did become combative and I did express myself in a manner that I shouldn't have, and I should have really tried to take different steps and not disrespect anybody, but unfortunately I couldn't control myself at the moment. I seen the addiction service unit yesterday, and she told me she lowered my level to level 3 and that she doesn't see that I need. And she said that it didn't deem necessary for me to do tier 4, that she could try to put me in the tier 2 programming. Also, when I was here last May, with this May that just passed, the board said they was gonna help me get into programming, and they never helped me as well with that either.
Well, so a couple of things. So my colleague tells me that you are right. Your score was just reduced to a 3. So you're right about that. We would have expected you to at least do a tier 2 program, but what happens is when you have a disciplinary report, it kind of puts you back down the list for getting into programs. And I'm glad you said it because I didn't want to have to say it, but the disciplinary report is you not being able to control yourself. Yeah, so
Yes.
getting a disciplinary report is not great, of course, you know that, but I
Yes.
am encouraged that you can at least recognize the behavior. I think that that's a step in the right direction. You have a release plan to live with your mom in Meriden?
Yes.
All right. And I'm glad to see you have identified a couple of options for employment. So because you haven't taken any programs, you said you put together a relapse prevention plan.
Yes, I have.
Tell me about that.
I was gonna go to the Wheeler Clinic in the Meriden. I believe it's on, it's not Reservoir Road. It's on.
It's okay. I don't need the address, but
I
Wheeler
apologize
Clinic.
for not knowing that, but I was planning on taking the Wheeler Clinic program several times a month. And if I do get parole, even if I don't get parole, I gotta do what's best for me, regardless as to whether I get the parole or I don't get granted parole. I got problems that I need to fix within myself no matter what. And
okay,
whether I take a program or not, it's gonna be on me if I wanna change. So you understand? So it's not any curriculum or any facilitator that can make me change. I'm gonna have to want to change on my own.
okay. I think those are all very true statements. Again, I'm encouraged to hear some insight on your part. So that is good. All right, Mr. Aponte, I do not have any additional questions. Ms. Keys?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we go back to the DRs? You have had several this year. And it looks as though you were still using. Are you using in the facility? You are, right? Or you were?
No, I didn't. I got caught with a contraband of a pipe. Once again, I had to take responsibility for my actions. So it was when I was using last year. So I guess I still had the pipe on my property. When they approached me about it and I could have denied it, put it on my celly, I said they took full responsibility for it because in order to grow, you gotta take accountability for your actions, identify the problems and know where you messed up at in order to move forward. So I did that and yeah, now I'm making sure that since I've been clean as well, I've been making sure that I've been on the right path for the most part with the drug use and stuff like that. I was going through something mentally because of health. I've been right into mental health. I've been working with them as well, so I could get the type of help that I need. So I could use the type of methods that they've been teaching me, so I won't lash out. So I could take the steps before I speak, act, and move vigorously.
So you've been working with mental health and doing some
Yes, I
programs with
have.
them?
Yes.
So the contraband, so there was a Pruno one that was last year, August last year, and then January this year, it was an altered hot pot. And then March this year, it was a makeshift smoking pipe. Was the altered hot pot for drug use as well?
No, that was for cooking use.
Cooking,
Yeah,
okay.
so I fell asleep and I left the hot pot on. It was a code red. Once again, it could have been me and my son. I sat there, took full responsibility once again for a mistake that I made. But I'm working on myself for the most part. I don't have no more altered hot pots. I'm working. I'm trying to do the best I can.
Okay, I appreciate that, taking responsibility and knowing that that's an important part of just life and being a mature adult, because we all try and do that, but we're not all good at it, but, okay. All right, I think, wait, even six. So, oh yeah, you had told Officer Menard, that you've been getting sick since not taking your medication, and that you haven't taken your meds since your last ticket in July. Is that correct?
Yes, because like I said, I didn't know how to control myself. So since I've been working on myself to control myself, I've been taking my medication. I just took it again, I believe this last Tuesday, so it's 6 weeks. I got to take it every 6 weeks because of my whatever I got going on. So I'm in the process of keeping things pushing forward in a positive manner. So I've been taking my medication. I've been doing that, not been holding my tongue back, been really training myself not to think out of line, so I won't speak out of line, and so I won't act out of line. So.
And so you know the importance of taking your medicine and keeping it. Why did you stop taking it?
Because that's why I went to segregation the last time. It was a whole mishap, and the individual that had sent me to segregation because of us having a confrontational issue, I wasn't trying to be in the area with her. I wasn't trying to go back and forth with her. So what I knew how to do at that moment was to remove myself from the situation, even though I was getting sick and stuff like that. But that's what I knew at that time not to. So since I've been working on myself since I went to seg, I've been taking my medication again gradually, and everything's been getting better with my health.
Thank you. And I'm sorry if I'm asking you to repeat anything. I wanted to just be clear on it. So, but I appreciate you taking the time to answer the questions. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chitz?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna ask for a little clarification on there. Your mental health score is a 1, but your medication is a 4, which tells me that you're on medication.
Yes.
I'm not sure it refers to mental health. However, I want to ask you about something else.
Okay.
So, do you have a driver's license?
No, it's been suspended, and when and if I do reintegrate back into the community, my mother's gonna help me. I have friends that I've known for the past 10 years gonna help me do this. I'll get the interlock device, pay the fines off so I can do stuff in the right manner.
Let me stop you right there. Are you required to have the interlock device?
Yes, I am. If I'm not mistaken.
When were you supposed to have it and for how long?
I don't know any of that information because I'm currently locked up, but I believe it's supposed to be for a year since I've been keeping up with the laws of the DUI curriculums. I believe I'm supposed to have it for a year inside my vehicle.
Well, I don't know about a year.
Yes.
But that is a concern for me because you were driving without it before when you were required to have it.
Okay.
So that is a big concern for me. And all my other questions have been already answered. So I have no further questions.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Aponte, we're all done with the questions for today. We'll deliberate and give you our decision in just a moment.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
You know, I appreciate that Mr. Aponte is having some insights into his emotions and trying to work on controlling them and accepting that he needs to take medications again, I think is an important piece of it. However, the prior panel had given him some direction about what he needed to do to be suitable in the community, and he hasn't been able to do that. One very important one was programming, specifically addiction services, and to not have any disciplinary reports because the ones that he had going into that last hearing were significant, as been pointed out, a couple of contraband tickets and fighting ticket. So, you know, for today's purposes, I do not find Mr. Aponte suitable. He needs an addiction services program, I think, to really give him that boost he needs to be successful. He seems to be addressing some of his other mental health needs. But for me, without the programming, I just don't find him suitable.
I absolutely agree with you.
I agree. And even with the lowered score, people that are scored 3 do get in those programs. So I'm not sure what happened there, but I agree. I would feel more comfortable if we had the program, and I did not fit that in.
Okay. And I had poor institutional adjustment and inadequate institutional program participation.
Yeah.
That's fine?
Yeah.
All right. So in the matter of Kevin Aponte, 396657, there's a motion to deny discretionary parole for the following reasons: poor institutional adjustment and inadequate institutional program participation. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Right, Mr. Aponte, we couldn't grant you parole today. We're hopeful that between now and the end of your sentence, you can do an addiction services program, you know, and have good conduct, so that might be able to happen.
All right.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I was
Thank you.
expecting a crash out, a man baby moment, something. No, he just gets up and gets out. Can you imagine though? I mean, really, I don't know who needs to see this. Who needs to see these poor Bebe Angel Aladdins? Is that I don't know. I've been going down an actual Justice Warrior rabbit hole, and I just like the guy, he can't help himself. But look, here's the insane thing. Here's the insane part about all of this is that the district judge and the attorney and the judge and all their wisdom only had this guy sentenced. Well, I don't know. He was sentenced February 15, 2024. He's getting out because of good time, apparently, 8/14/2026, or maybe earlier. So next year, he'll be out to roam the streets, to drive his vehicles. I'm going to go over his long criminal history in a second, and it's long. But let's first let it sink in and think about this, that the brilliant PhDs in Connecticut, the people running the Department of Corrections, this man somehow, miraculously, we shouldn't say miraculously, I'm sure they have a great system in place, became less of a risk for his narcotics. He went from a drug score of 4 down to 3. Oh, goodness gracious. Drug Marabella. Judge Marabella would have an aneurysm if he saw how Connecticut runs their department. Like, it is so crazy. What? I just need to ask you, PhDs. And you know what? I think it gives me some insight actually into the system. You know, I keep saying it's an agenda by the state of Connecticut. They want to empty their prisons. They hand out pardons like hot cakes. I don't know if you've ever seen the pardon hearing. I just watched around 50 pardon hearings. They pardoned 49 of them. The only one they didn't pardon was someone who committed insurance fraud. Of course, you know. But they pardoned chomos who were still on the registry. They pardoned people who had murdered people just maybe 10 years ago, gotten out of prison, like craziest things. They pardoned people who are still getting tickets, speeding tickets, just, you know, that within a few months of the, I mean, you know, speeding to, okay, but like, anyways, okay. All right. I digress. What I mean is that it's an agenda. It's an agenda where they are trying to say that their prison system is the best, that their approach to rehabilitation, their progressive approach is better than other states. And I believe this is total speculation, but how does your drug score go lower when you have in prison 3 or 4 write-ups for drug paraphernalia type stuff, when you have dirties, when you don't take a single program? How does it get lower? So either it's a complete just giant blunder, like someone made a big mistake, or they are motivated, they are incentivized, maybe it's through bonuses, maybe it's through, I don't know, to just have people get lower. Because how do you rate that the prison is successful? How do you prove on paper with data that your progressive approach to rehabilitation works? Well, it would be by saying, you know, this is why data and reports and all this, you can never look at a report or hear someone say, I have this report that no, you need to know who's sponsoring the report, what's the agenda behind the report. I don't want to look at any data, anything, until I know who made the data, right? So I imagine that they need to say, look, our prison's working. Well, how do you judge rehabilitation? Well, one way is revocations, but as we've seen, they've a way to manipulate that, because a revocation versus maybe a punishment. Okay, but that's one way. But another way could be in prison is say, well, we have 100 inmates that show up at a drug rate of 5, and then after a year before parole, they go down to 4. Or they start at 4 and they go down to 3. So anyone looking at the report say, wow, okay, well, I mean, it must be working. You guys get what I'm saying? They just are motivated, I believe, to lower people's scores because at the end of the year, it will make them look good when they have to show their numbers to the higher ups, and the higher ups say, "Great, maybe people get bonuses." Or maybe the drug coaches who are third-party consulting companies outside get to sign a new contract, right? There because there's no other way. That or it's pure incompetency that he would get a lower score. And the way the parole board is just like, oh yeah, he did get lower, huh? And not even question it. We're seeing this just how insane the system is. Now, let's go look again how further insane this is because they're releasing a dangerous man. Yes, he's not a chomo. Good. Yes, he's hasn't murdered anyone. He's not violent offender. Maybe we'll find out. But he is getting in his car and driving, and he's a full blown addict. Can you imagine going through the whole prison system and getting nothing out of it and back released into the streets to offend? Somehow still, I think, with good time even. So, okay. Thank you, Sir Richard, for all this information. Arrested on March, and by the way, Connecticut only goes back 10 years. Otherwise, I imagine the record would go back even just much further. So, March 16, 2016, for sale of a controlled substance, 731 days jail, special parole, 2 years. 11/16/2017. So again, you know that he didn't actually serve this time because he's arrested less than a year later, or a year and a few months later, right? Misdemeanor possession, controlled substance, sentenced 60 days jail. Okay. And he would have been backing his special parole time, but he doesn't get it. And this is something that we always see, right? Because look, 2-year special parole. Well, how come when he was arrested just less than the 731 days jail, he didn't have to serve it? Because that's just the way it works. It's the gimmick. November 17th, a day later, 2017, he's got another criminal impersonation or something. 3/30/2021, arrested for crime committed 10/8/2020, pled guilty to felony larceny, sentenced 7 years, suspended after 30 months, probation 3 years. So look, here's a 7-year sentence, right? Which they suspended after 30 months. So then you might say, well, if he's given 7 years suspended after 30 months, how was he arrested on 1/12/2022? Less than a year later. And that's because their sentencing is all gimmicks. It's all a joke. This was misdemeanor assault third degree, was sentenced to 364 days in jail. So he gets a good day, a full day time served. But they suspended it. Execution suspended, probation for 18 months. And again, I'll just ask a very simple question. If you were sentenced to 7 years on March 30th, 2021, how are you getting arrested a year later and then getting a suspended sentence? Then 4 months after this, 5/27/2022, he pleads guilty to legal operation of motor vehicle without ignition device. This is what they were talking about there. So again, he's let out to do something where he could have killed someone because he's in a car. He needs to drive with an ignition device, and he's not. He gets arrested. He's sentenced to 364 days in jail. Again, they give him days served. And they suspend it after 30 days. Conditional discharge. How? Then he's arrested on 8/17/2023, pled guilty to felony possession with intent to distribute, sentenced to another 7 years, suspended after 30 months, probation 3 years. And when you look at these numbers, and he's getting out no matter what, you just say, how is this possible? How is this possible? What is this? Is this just a big joke? Are you guys like, you think this is funny? The judges, the DAs, No, it is an agenda. It is an agenda to keep their prisons open. Sentencing means absolutely nothing. And he is going to end up killing someone because he's going to be driving while intoxicated. And these aren't victimless crimes either. He's possession with intent to distribute. This guy's selling on the streets. He's slinging on the streets of Connecticut. And yet they're going to let him get it. He goes into prison, has a horrible record, does nothing, and he gets out. Onto more suspended sentences and special parole and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? We're going to see him again in the return of. I'm sure he'll be there on a revocation. There's no doubt about it. And this is the Department of Corrections. When you see these hearings and you see them back to back to back, how insane they are, you really, the only people who can think it's normal and good are the people with the PhDs. But everyone else either have their head in the sand or they just haven't seen this yet. But this is wrong in no one benefits from this. No one. And with that, I'll let you go.
I lived with what the monster did to me for 5 years before I had the courage to open up. And almost 4 years later, I'm still living in terror. So to sit here and read that this man doesn't want to even fulfill his punishment for the horrendous crime he committed, it crushes my soul. I want the court to consider this. Why does it feel like I'm the only one being punished for this crime? I learned to view the email release as something positive. I let the feeling of anger go because, as I said before, I was not going to let him tint this moment for me. I learned to view the situation as someone that is in control. So I asked the court, please do not tint this moment for me. Make him pay for the fullest extent for what he did to me. Because what he did to me is not right. And it's not right no wanting to pay for the consequences of your actions. No victim should ever feel like the shadow of their perpetrator is coming back to haunt them.